Greetings, this is Fallon Han. Got my hair tied back today. I just want it out of my way for now, and wow, my skin's not looking too great, is it? Fucking hell. Anyway, I wanted to just do a bloggy vlog today. I have noticed myself moving away from internet stuff, largely. I just... It doesn't really do much for me anymore, right? I guess it's kind of me disconnecting in just a different way. I saw a pretty good post, actually, on Facebook before whilst I was scrolling whilst out. 20 years ago, the internet was an escape from the real world. Today, the real world is an escape from the internet. And quite frankly, that's what it's starting to feel like. I made this channel originally to talk about furry-anthropy, more commonly known as Otherkin these days. And I just eventually fell from that. And I fell from that for a few reasons. One was because I had just talked about everything I possibly could with that. There really wasn't much I could say about it, which incidentally applies to politics as well at the moment. Like politics, identity politics, all this kind of thing. I've said it all. I've said it all. I don't need to say anything else. I've said it all. And the same thing with Otherkin. I've said it all. I don't really need to say anything else. There's nothing really else for me to add to this. Like, that's it. I'm done. And at a certain point, I'm just sitting here repeating myself over and over and over again like Mojo Jojo. But I'm gonna move you out the way so you will stop honking at me. But I made this channel originally to talk about that, and I fell from it. And I fell from it for like a few reasons. One was I talked about everything I wanted to talk about. Two, the community was starting to really piss me off because I felt like they were going crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier. I remember when I first started doing content like that, I would receive a lot of, I want to say praise and a lot of personal messages back when YouTube had personal messages about this kind of thing, because I was one of the few people at the time talking about this openly and honestly, as well as looking at it from a different angle outside of just spirituality. I was fulfilling a niche within this tiny little community, and I became quite known within the community, and it was nice. Like, I felt like I was doing something worthwhile, like legitimately thinking about what the hell all this is and how to make sense of it, right? I was certainly filling a niche because the majority of people just went on about spirituality, like reincarnation and shit like that. You know, my whole thing was like, yeah, I'm human, obviously. Like, the idea that we're not human is insane to me. You know, there's that one famous quote from Shiro, you know, on every level except the physical, I am a wolf. You know, that shit. Admittedly, I actually spoke to some of the people, the couple that were from that old documentary. The documentary did them dirty. They edited the fuck out of that interview to make them look as insane and unhinged as possible. Never trust these people, man. Never trust journalists or documentary makers or anything to do with television. Never fucking trust these people. You are there to be used by them. They don't care about you. They're just going to use you. Never trust these people. But I actually spoke to that couple. I don't know what they're like now, but back then they were perfectly sound. They were reasonable. But yeah, it was just one of those things. But no, like, not on every level except the physical, you're not a fucking wolf. You're a human being. A wolf couldn't comprehend such things. It's just a fucking animal. You need the humanity in you in order to comprehend such an idea, right? So I came up with the idea subconscious association. So essentially, you were doing or feeling very normal human behaviors, and for some reason you were subconsciously associating these things with an animal, which made you feel like that animal, even though you weren't in any way that animal. That weird association you had in your head made you kind of think that way. You felt like that. And I generally believe for a lot of people, it's a cope. It's a cope for depression or not liking who they are, wanting to be someone else, wanting to be something else. and is pretty much being entirely replaced by non-binary these days. I generally believe that the vast majority of people who would have fallen into Otherkin back in the day have now fallen into non-binary, because it essentially fulfills the same role. You're something other, you're not you. It's an escape from essentially not liking who you are and being depressed or something like that, right? You know, I don't know for a fact, but I don't think there's anything truly spiritual going on here, right? I think it is all in here. It's the only real explanation for it. But I moved on from that, and I later came to the conclusion that the reason why the community started to really piss me off and seemed to go like really downhill with all being like, you know, super spiritual and questioning being something that was shunned upon, when prior it was something that, yeah, this is something you should think about. This, you should question yourself, you should think about why you're making certain associations, you should try and get to the bottom of this. Definitely think, introspect. These are always good things. That started to become frowned on, and people were saying you can't question other people's identity. I've come to the conclusion that that's because the King community back in the day were one of the first communities to be taken over by this woke ideology that has just wrought havoc on Western culture for the past few years, to the point where it's quite frankly the modern day religion. Like, all the reasons why Christianity has been such a fucking pain in the ass in society has become this. It is a moral authority that cannot be questioned. Thus, you lose your humanity and be a morally repugnant, evil demon monster of a person, right? I feel like this woke ideology has essentially become the modern version of that. So I fell away from a lot of this Otherkin stuff. I just stopped kind of believing it. Although I still like some symbolism behind it. I like some elements of it. I kind of fell away from it. I stuck with furry, though, because furry was all kind of like the fun elements of that without any of the weird claims. You know what I mean? Although furry's a funny one, because much like otaku, if you're an otaku, just like if you're a furry, you need to be self-aware. You need to realize that this shit is fucking weird, and some places that goes is a massive red flag. Like, you're engaging in some fucked up shit at a certain point in these communities, right? For example, in the otaku community, you're hinging on pedophilia way too often. Like, I'm sorry, lolly is not necessarily hurting anyone, but if you're seeing this shit and you're not self-aware enough to know what this looks like, you've got problems. Same thing with furry, right? Furry hinges on bestiality way too much. And if you're seeing this shit and you're not self-aware enough to know what this goes into way too often, you need fucking help. You know, it's that kind of thing. Like, furry gets into legitimate bestiality at times, just like fucking like the otaku gets into legitimate like lolly pedophilia way too fucking much, right? If something quacks like a duck and looks like a duck, don't fuck it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? There's a certain point. Why am I a furry? Because anthro animals are fucking cool. The Khajiit from the Elder Scrolls, the Argonians from the Elder Scrolls, like the Tauren from World of Warcraft. I like animal people. I love animals. I like playing as humanoid animals. I like the look of humanoid animals. That's what it comes down to. Is there sexual nature to it? Yeah, I won't deny it. I think animal people look cool. You make them hot, I'm all over that. But when you get into, like, the feral stuff, nah, dude, that's just a fucking animal. That's fucked up. No. that is fucked up. You know, you need a level of self-awareness with this shit. Otherwise, it's just like, meh. And I do think a lot of people jump on that a bit too much. Like, they're very quick to... It's very trendy to shit on furry. Although, admittedly, furries have deserved it. Some of the most unhinged people on the internet... In fact, I'm going to go out and say, pretty much nearly all the most insane, unhinged, and quite frankly psychotic people on the internet are either a furry or an otaku. They're one of them, at the very least. Now, they can be other things as well, but if they're batshit insane and have some weird fucked up fetishes and maybe engaged in some really fucked up shit, there's a decent chance they're a furry or they're an otaku, right? And you can't ignore this correlation. This happens all the fucking time. It happens too fucking often. You've got to be aware of this. But tangent. But I moved away from a lot of this stuff. I'm trying to move away from the politics. I'll still talk about it, but at a certain point, I'm just repeating myself all the fucking time. I'm screaming into the void, and no one really cares. You know, no one really cares. I will happily engage in advocacy in real life where it matters. I do it. I don't give a fuck who hers. I will very openly and honestly, in the most tactful way I can think of, engage in men's rights and my political opinions and LGBT stuff, and I've engaged in certain circles where it's like I am an MRA. Like, I will speak on behalf of men's rights on whenever I can. And I think society treats women like children in that they protect them from too much, including responsibility. We treat women like children. You know, we do. And we treat men like tools. And it's a problem. But there's a certain sect of this now because men's rights were melded in with pickup artists by feminists. They were grouped together. And over time, they've kind of adopted each other, so the plan of attack worked. And now we've got people like Andrew fucking Tate, you know, and we've got people like Fresh and Fit, and all these people that essentially get a bunch of OnlyFans and hookers on a podcast, women that aren't really representative of the majority of women that are very, very easy to outsmart. They'll get them on the podcast and they'll talk about the most, like, a bunch of shit, and these women will come across as egotistical pieces of shit, because they are, and they'll use this to plant all women as the same. And I've met way too many of these people who will just shit over women as a whole, and it's like, no, yes, there are biological factors. We can see these problems with men and women going back centuries. We can see this. This isn't new. But some of it is society. And I think if we treated men with more humanity and we expected more responsibility from women, things would be better. Like, there are too many women that just want a sugar daddy, essentially. That's all they want. They want to kick their feet back and they just want to be waited on hands and foot. They exist, thus everything should be given to them on a silver platter. There are too many women out there like that, right? You know, and it's a societal problem. And I think if men start putting their foot down and they start going, you know what, this isn't worth it for me, I'm going my own way, then things will improve. And you know what? We're starting to see that happening. We are starting to see more and more men going, you know what? This isn't worth the effort. Fuck it. My humanity isn't valued. I can be fucked over by this system at any given moment. I'm not taking part of it. I'm finding happiness somewhere else because I'm not getting it from women. Now, good women might exist. Good fucking luck finding them. Especially if ones that are interested in you. And I'm not a catch. I'm not the most attractive person in the world, and my life situation makes me not very attractive. That's fine. That's just the way it is. I get that. So, a lot of people say that and just call me a fucking incel. Like, okay, whatever. If that makes you feel better by just calling me that, fine. I'm still going to advocate for men's rights. I'm still going to advocate for my points, and you insulting me is not going to change that. But, I'll happily advocate for this shit. But again, there's too many people going into a crazy direction with this, in which they just shit over women as a whole. They view them as inherently inferior, as inherently toxic, and it's just like, we're not going to get anywhere with this. We need to speak about this in which people recognize humanity, and we're not going to do it by essentially doing the exact same fucking thing feminists do, is like, oh, yeah, women are oppressed, let's shit over men and treat them like inherent demons that just want to rape us all and keep us in the dirt. No, that's not how you get people on your side. Admittedly, when it comes to women, too many people are ready to rush to your side because we've all been raised believing that women are oppressed. Boys are stupid, throw rocks at them, but a man should never hit a woman under any circumstances, even if he's being beaten the fuck up. That's the kind of world we live in, but there's a double standard, and if you don't see it, you're fucking blind. But, that being said, are there shitty men out there? You can bet your fucking ass there are shitty men out there. Men are used by a lot of women for what they can provide, and women are used by a lot of men for their body. There's a lot of shitty people out there, and because there are shitty people out there, a lot of women have met a lot of shitty men, and a lot of men have met a lot of shitty women. It's just the way of things, and we're not gonna get anywhere by treating the opposite sex and like it's inferior and all evil. In my opinion, basically the way I view things is we have a society that essentially treats men and women very, very differently and fucks us both over in different ways. But it's undeniable, if you're being honest, that men are treated like shit. Our humanity is not valued. It's just not. Meanwhile, women are treated like children and are coddled on every friggin' front. And that's not good for them either. We live in a society. But I'm still gonna advocate for this shit when I want to. It's just I don't really care about screaming into the void anymore. Admittedly, that's what I'm doing here, but we're going into this. So I've left Twitter. I'm leaving Facebook this November. I'm actually looking forward to deleting the channel. I'm still using it, as you can see from the start of this video. I'm still using it. I'm still scrolling, but when November comes, it's gone. And I'm not going back to that. When I say I'm going to do something, it means I'm going to do something. It's like, people who know me know this is true. So I'm done with it. I'm moving on. And I will look into Blue Sky. I've heard about that one recently. Apparently it's all just artists. And if Blue Sky is legitimately just about art, I'll join that. Because I would love to look through art from a variety of people. Yeah. Follow a bunch of artists and look up through a bunch of art. No AI allowed. Hell yes. That is far better way of scrolling. Looking at artists. Maybe I can even get that Fursona finally commissioned that I've had an idea for ages. I've been a furry for a long time, but I've never had an official Fursona. That would be really cool. And then once I get the reference sheet for commissions, I could start hiring other artists and get like a bunch of different things done. I can hang it around the room up here. It would be great. Be fan-fucking-tastic. So, if Blue Sky is legitimately what I've heard it is, and it's like a place for artists, and there's no politics, then great. Although that's going to change because apparently a lot of people are jumping onto Blue Sky at the moment, and it's essentially becoming the new left-wing Twitter because it's a lot of lefties leaving Twitter, leaving X because it's becoming too right-wing for them because there are right-wing people on it that exist. So they're leaving to find a new safe space, and unfortunately they might turn Blue Sky into that. But if it isn't politics and I'm just following artists, I don't give a fuck what their politics are. I just want to see their art, right? Cool, awesome. I'll be all over that. I'll still use Quora. I probably won't install it on my phone because one of the reasons I'm leaving Facebook is to stop the scrolling. But going on Quora, I purposely keep it in mind to show people my best when I'm on there. So I try and be as reasonable as possible. I never let my anger get the better of me or anything like that. I try not to get into righteous indignation over certain causes that I care about. But yeah, but I care about men's rights. I care about the LGBT stuff. And to be honest, it's really disheartening to see just how much the LGBT stuff has been co-opted. It has been co-opted. I've gone into this before. I'm not getting into it again. But essentially, my analogy is, at one point, the best place for manipulators and predatory people to hide was the church. Because the church was the moral authority of the Western world. It could not be questioned. Anyone that questioned the church was just a fucking monster. They were morally repugnant. They were looking for an excuse. So, the best place for manipulators, power-hungry people, and predators to hide was within the church. Well, the church doesn't have that social power anymore. Human rights causes do. So the best place right now for predatory people, for manipulative people and for power-hungry people to hide is within human rights causes. And that's why the LGBT has become so fucking batshit insane recently. It's because of people like that. It's been co-opted. And there's an increasing number of LGBT people that are saying, this does not fucking represent me anymore. This has gone way too fucking far. These people are fighting for things and pushing for things that my generation did not fight and push for. We just wanted to be treated like everyone else. We wanted to get married to our partners. We wanted to live normal lives like everyone else. And now these people are going way too fucking far. And I agree. That's what's happening. Like, there is no inherent difference between a gay person and a straight person beyond the consenting adult they're attracted to. That's it. Some of these people are fucking monsters, and some of these people are some of the best people you've ever met. And most are somewhere in between, just like every other group of fucking humans. Just treat them like you treat everyone else. It's not hard. But that's not good enough anymore. We need to roll out the rainbow carpet. We need to psychically understand whatever random pronoun they have at any given point. We have to treat them like children because we can't treat them like everyone else because they're offended when they're treated like everyone else. And it's like, no, this is getting too much now, you know? And especially when you're pushing this on kids. Now, this is the problem. Right-wing people have been crying wolf over this for years. They've been like, what? A gay person in the same room as a child? They're going to molest... No, fuck off. But right-wing people have been crying wolf over this for fucking years. You know, they called all gay people pedophiles. They called them all deviants. Like, no, they're just attracted to the same sex, you fucking freaks. What the hell's wrong with you? And because that's happened for so long, when we are getting into the point now in which people working with children on TikTok and other platforms are openly saying that they're indoctrinating kids. They're teaching them all these things that, quite frankly, they shouldn't be fucking taught. They're getting way too deep into the pornographic shit. No. Now, here's the thing. I don't like it when it's gay people, and I don't like it when it's straight people. Let children be children. If a child ends up being gay or trans at some point in their life, there's the fucking phone, I'm ignoring it. If a child ends up being gay or trans at some point in their life, cool, fine, show them support. But up until the point that, like, especially with trans, if they're not an adult, if they're not old enough to get a tattoo, if they're not old enough to drink, if they're not old enough to consent to sex, if they're not old enough for anything like this, they're not old enough to be trans. I'm sorry, no. Especially when it's trendy at the moment. Don't say it isn't, because it is. Just like autism is becoming trendy, and weird, quirky things. Ooh, and look at how quirky I am online. It's trendy. Because no one wants to be normal anymore. Normal is boring. Everyone wants something different about themselves. So they're adopting these little things. I've seen it with autism. And I'm seeing it with this as well. This doesn't mean that autistic people and trans people don't exist and are showing awareness online. They are. They do. And it's great. The autistic online community has done a lot of good for me. But two things can be true at the same time. More people have greater understanding and awareness of these things, so these people feel more comfortable coming out and sharing their experiences. That's fucking fantastic. A lot of progress has been made there. At the same time, it's also becoming trendy. It's the modern equivalent of emo, or scene, or goth, or punk, or all this kind of things. And it actually falls into the same trappings. Emo, scene, punk, goth, a lot of these things had gender, challenging things along with them as well. They did. That was part of the appeal. They were pushing against social norms. And the reason why they're always so big with teenagers is because that's the age in which we all want to do that, right? Fantastic. This is just part of adolescence. It's always been a thing. But now it's becoming attached to life-altering shit. Hormones. Surgery. No, this is too far. Back in my day, I just dyed my hair black and wore a fucking collar around my neck. That was it. I didn't get permanent life-altering physical changes. I didn't go on hormones. I didn't get any fucking operations. I just dyed my hair black and wore a spiky dog collar around my neck. I wore a big long leather trench coat. I had a goth phase. That was it. I still love the goth shit today. I still listen to the music. I still go a little bit, have a little bit of the dress sense, a little bit of the thing. And if I could pull off eyeliner, I'd probably do that as well. But a lot of the goth stuff takes a lot of work. But again, I still like a lot of that stuff. I just don't go out of my way to kind of alter myself enough to fit into the look. There's a lot of people who, as they get older, still love this stuff. They just don't adopt the look because it's a lot of work and it doesn't work in day-to-day life. But, again, when we're getting into surgery and shit and hormones, nah, that's a problem now. That's a problem. We used to have to worry about kids getting tattoos and piercings. Now we're needing to worry about them chopping off parts of their body and forever altering their their genetics. This is not a good thing. This isn't to say that trans people don't exist and people don't look back in their life and be like, wow, I should have known at this point in their life. But you know the majority of people who are being affected by this? It's autistic people, like me, or lesbians, bi, and gay people. These are all people who are more likely to challenge gender norms growing up. These are all people that are going to be, and have been, falsely diagnosed with being trans. Or fucking non-binary. And then going into this. Gay people aren't broken. They don't need to be fixed by making them straight by changing their gender. That doesn't need to happen. They're not broken. And if you just allowed these people to grow and find themselves, they'd eventually realize, oh, I'm gay, I'm bi. Maybe they'll get a diagnosis with autism. I spent most of my life feeling more feminine than is typical for being a man. And it wasn't until I grew this that I really felt like a man. These days I don't feel feminine at all. There are moments in which I have a little bit more femininity. For example, I don't know many men that use conditioner on top of shampoo. It's a joke at this point, but it's true. Like, most men use a combo. I use conditioner and shampoo separately. I'm wearing a fucking scrunchie right now as well. They're nice. They keep the fucking hair. It's not harsh on the hair. It doesn't damage the hair. And yeah, I'm wearing a scrunchie. These are really for women, but I'm wearing one because it does the fucking job. You know, I'm not uncomfortable with that. I'm not uncomfortable with liking plushies and cute things like this. I'm not uncomfortable with this. A lot of guys are. You know, I'm not uncomfortable with people thinking I'm gay. I like skincare products, although you probably couldn't tell, but I like skincare products, and I like candles and like astrology and crystals and gemstones and things. I like a lot of things that are typically more associated with women. And I'm a little bit flamboyant at times, especially when I'm feeling confident and good about myself. A lot of times that can manifest of me being quite flamboyant. I've always felt more feminine than is typical for a man. But it wasn't until I grew this that I really felt masculine. And I do feel like a man now. I feel comfortable and confident in, yeah, I'm a bloke. I'm a bloke that's so comfortable that I can happily enjoy all these things without feeling off about them, like there's something wrong with me, right? But at one point I did. I was exactly the kind of person that if I was born now, would be told that I'm trans or non-binary. In fact, I dated a girl many years ago who suggested that I might be gender fluid. What's gender fluid? It's non-binary before non-binary was a thing. It's the same concept. Somebody who is both male and female and switches into one or the other at a whim, right? She suggested that I was that. I wasn't. I'm just a bloke. I like what I like. It doesn't change the fact that I'm a bloke, right? A man can be as feminine as comes natural and still be a man. A woman can be as masculine as comes natural and still be a woman. You don't suddenly change. But this non-binary stuff reinforces the idea that, oh, well, if a man has more femininity than is typical, then he must not be entirely a man. It's regressive. We're going backwards. Wasn't the argument that boys and girls toys don't exist? That boys and girls clothing don't really exist? That it's just clothing that we assign gender to? I agree with that. If a man wants to wear a dress, let him wear a fucking dress. He's still a man. And quite frankly, some men pull it off better than some women. Who the fuck cares? Let them do it. If that's what they want to do, if they feel comfortable with that, let them fucking do it. Does this make me a woman? Does wearing a fucking scrunchie make me a woman? According to some people it does. Oh, I'm non-binary now. Are you fucking serious? That's not how it fucking works. No, this is regressive. We're categorizing people based on how feminine or masculine they are in certain ways. And if, like most people, you're a bit of both, oh, then you're non-binary. No, fuck off. But and don't say that's not what people are doing, because that is very much what people are doing. You can see a non-binary person from a mile away. If they're born a woman, if they're a female, they will have short hair. They will go out of their way to look masculine because they recognize that they look feminine, so they're trying to balance it out. If it's a man, if someone is born a male, they will go out their way to look more feminine. They'll wear more feminine clothing, have more feminine hairstyles, because they're fully aware that they look masculine and they're trying to balance it out a little bit. You can see these people from a mile away because they all look the same. They all dress the same. You know, because they're all trying to be a bit of both, and they know it doesn't come natural. You know? Why not? Here's an idea. If you're a man, just be comfortable with liking feminine things. It's fine. It's fine to like feminine things. There's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't make you gay. It doesn't make you less of a man. If you're a woman and you like masculine things, that's fine. Just like masculine things. It doesn't make you gay. It doesn't make you less of a woman. Can we get back to that part of the left-wing ideology, please? Can we get back to that? That would be great. You know, that's the left-wing ideology that I believe in. If a man wants to wear a fucking dress, let him wear a fucking dress. Who the fuck cares? You know? Oh, but now we need to get hormones involved, and we need to get different freaking, pronouns involved. We need to start referring to people as they, as if we're passively aggressively ignoring them. People do that when they're being passive-aggressive. Like, they're talking about someone as if they're not in the room. I was recently asked by a friend of mine to do that for them. And I'm doing it for them because I've known them for years and I don't want them to hate me. But I don't like it. Because it feels like I'm being really passive-aggressive to them. I've had to sit down and really practice it as well because it doesn't come natural to me. I don't like doing it. I really don't like doing it. But I like this person, so I'm going to do it for them. But, you know, and in that context, they them works because they're not here. I'm not addressing them. But if they're right here and I'm talking directly to them or in a group of people in which I'm mentioning them, saying they them is weird. It's like I'm ignoring they're there. I hate it. But yeah. You know, but this, it's going too far. It's going too far. And I have seen more legitimate hate towards the LGBT within the last few years than I've done all my life. Because people are sick of it. And the more sick of this overreach people are getting, the more people are just going, fuck it, fuck the lot of them. No, we don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want to go backwards. How fucking long did it take for gay people to finally be able to get married? What was it, like 2017? Something like that? It wasn't that long ago. It's only in the past few years in which gay people can get married across the Western world. It's not that long ago. And now we're pushing so much that people are starting to really, really hate. Like, normal, average, everyday people had no issues with the LGBT are now starting to develop issues with them because of the overreach. And we're seeing it in media. Tokenism. If you poll British people think that there are more black people in Britain than there actually is. They'll say that's like 30% of the population when it's considerably less. You know, because every fucking advert has to have a multiracial couple on it. We have to make sure we get the black people represented in there. We have to. And it's so obvious. And it's tokenism. Because these people aren't written. Like, if we see characters in shows, they're not written to be characters. They're written to be ideological, like, pedestals. They're written to be political talking points. They're not written to be characters. They can't have flaws or anything like that. They can't be human. They have to represent an ideology. So they can't write characters anymore because some people might get offended on their character having a negative trait. Because obviously, when a white person exists on screen, that's a character. When a minority exists on screen, that minority has to represent an entire group of people. That, again, is regressive. Can't a black person just exist as a character on their own without them representing an entire group of people? Same thing for trans characters and gay characters. Can't they just exist? Can't we just write them and have them in stories without their entire purpose being to stand on a pedestal and represent an entire group of people in the current world? How is this not going to be, how is this not regressive? You know, it's tokenism. It's modern day tokenism. We can't have ginger characters anymore because every ginger character is now replaced with a black person for some reason. You know, and it's just like, we can all see it. Even outside of the brain rot that is the internet and social media, we can all see it. You speak to the average person on the street and they're sick of it. And you know what this causes? Animosity, frustration, and that eventually turns into hate. You cannot force people to accept things when you don't put any effort into it. You just shoehorn it into things. You replace things with it. People can see it. They can see it and they don't like it. And we're seeing more... Like, at one point, we used to have gay characters in video games and the world didn't bend itself into a tizzy over it. You had the few religious types that didn't like it. Fuck them. But we had gay characters. We had, like, main female characters in video games. We had all kinds of this shit. No one cared. Now they do. Now we can't have a gay character in a video game or a show, or we can't have a main female character anymore without people screaming DEI or wokeism, because people have got so sick of the constant bombardment of really shit characters that exist purely to push a message, that as soon as they see any of them now, their defenses go up and they think the worse. Because we've had so much shite for so long, while people are pushing it down our throats. No, it's not shit. You people are just hateful people. Here, take our gaslight right in the face. You know, people can see that this is happening. And it's like, again, listening to me talk, do I sound like a right-winger? What right-wingers say, if a man wants to wear a dress, let him wear a fucking dress? What right-wingers say there are no male or female toys, there are just toys? What right-winger says that? I agree with that. But now we're going to insane worlds. We're going too fucking far at this point. We really are. We're making average, everyday people that are perfectly okay with gay people, or okay with people of different races. We're frustrating them. This is how real hate is created. We're making things worse for these groups. We are. Because people can see the tokenism. They can see the ideology from a mile off. And even average people on the street now. I've spoken to them. I haven't asked them about this. They've mentioned it to me. Because people are fucking sick of it. And we can all see it at this point, right? It's going too far. But, again, I'm getting this out of my system. I'm using this as a big rant thing. But I'm leaving social media for the most part. I am looking for alternatives. But I just want... I don't want to constantly be triggered. I don't want to waste my life scrolling. I don't want to waste my life getting into arguments that don't mean anything. And truth be told, I have enjoyed being a bit of a troll. I have enjoyed poking the bear a few times, but I've got to the point where that just doesn't fulfill me anymore like it used to. I'm getting more out of the real world at the moment. I'm back into my photography, and it's giving me those same feelings as it used to, you know? I will upload a video on that eventually. I want to upload like a big thing of everything I've done in the year. That'll go up sometime December, hopefully. That's the plan anyway. We'll see. But yeah, I'm getting more out of the real world now. I'm getting currently a lot out of my friendships and my connections and shit like that than I am on the internet. Like, I go on the internet and I just see insane shit. I just see constant anger all the time, constant frustration, and constant ideological pushes. Like, even amongst people who I get on with, it's like, you know, I'm involved in men's rights, and like I say, like, women aren't inferior. They're not inferior. They're not inherent monsters. Society just lets them get away with it more than men. Like, they're treated with kid gloves, and because of that, a lot of women will take advantage of it. Now, you can bet your ass if the pendulum swung and men were treated like women are treated now, men would be the bastards. And women would be the ones that needed the rights fight fought for. Really, like, that's what would happen. I generally believe, like, yeah, there are biological differences. It's been a thing for years. We joked about it for a long time. Everyone knows men and women communicate in very different ways, while brains work in very different ways, and as such, a lot is lost in translation. Neither is inherently wrong. We just operate in different ways, and the best thing we can do is try and learn to at least understand one another, so we can understand when our communication between one another isn't working, right? And we need to, and if women understand men more and how men think, and if men understand women more and how they think, things can hopefully get better. But the big issue right now is we're treated differently by society. We're held to different standards by society, and that creates problems. And when you mix that with constant animosity between the sexes and the inability to try and see things from the other sex's perspective, it's causing increased number of problems, right? I'm not as far into this as a lot of these guys I know are, who are quite frankly going down the same rabbit hole as the feminists are. Some of them really are, and I don't like it. You know, and the same thing for the LGBT stuff. Like, I mean, fuck, look at the flag behind me, right? You can't see it over there, but there's a rainbow one over there, right? I'm Demi. I'm part of the plus, technically speaking. I'm part of the plus. The Demi is part of the asexual spectrum, okay? I'm part of this. But even before I adopted that, and I just saw myself as a basic-ass straight guy, which I still am, really. That's more of a function than a sexuality, if that makes sense. I'm straight, but that's how I function. But, you know, I've always cared about this because I've never understood why people have any issues with gay people, specifically. And then that moved on to bi people. I've got no understanding why anyone has any issues with bi people. Like, and then trans people, that's a little bit more complicated because trans inherently goes against a lot of understanding. But the thing with trans is I have trans friends, so that grounds me a little bit. I think if I didn't have trans friends, I'd be a lot more vehemently against it than I am, which I think is, honestly, my only really issue with trans is the culture over the past few years. Trans has taken over more than anything else, which is why we have the progressive pride flag now, in which the pink, white, and blue are progressively taking over the rest of the rainbow. It's a very good symbolic flag of what's actually happening, that one group is taking over the rest. But this isn't all trans people. Just like there are gay people and bi people shitting over what the LGBT has become, there are trans people doing this as well. They're people like any other. Like, you know, it's not something I'm inherently against, you know? I just don't like the directions in which some of this have taken, which I've already mentioned. I don't like how insane things are going. Most normal people out there do not think this way. They don't. You know, there are some fundamental problems that I am ready to advocate on behalf of or against at the drop of a hat. I've done it in this video. If you speak to me in the real world, I'll very openly talk about this as well. I'll try and be more tactful than the ragey boy I'm in this video. But again, the internet is just a constant fire of chaos and anger all the fucking time. Chaos, fire, anger, propaganda, everyone pushing their ideology, nobody trying to see anyone's humanity. Everyone's the bad guy if they're not entirely in line with you. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of wasting my life scrolling through fucking Facebook. I'm sick of getting into arguments with people over bullshit. You know, I'm sick of, like, the tribalism. I want to speak to more grounded, down-to-earth people, and I've met people in real life that are like that now, and it's really put a lot of this in perspective. It's helped ground me more than anything else. You know, like I said at the start, 20 years ago, the internet was an escape from the real world. Today, the real world is an escape from the internet. The internet has become mainstream. It has become mainstream. And as a result, it is mainstream on crack. It is so batshit, it's unbelievable. And it's not really doing anything for me these days. I'm finding more pleasure in video games, in photography, in the arts in general, in playing tabletop with my friends, both over Roll20 with one group and over in real life with another group. I'm getting a lot out of real life now. And the internet is just... I still use the internet a lot. Like, I'm still a very introverted person that likes a lot of alone time. And that's never going to change. But certain elements of the internet, I'm just kind of done with at this point, you know? I am kind of done with. And I'm trying to curate things a little better, so my life is just more enjoyable. It's like, I'll give you a preview right now because I've got it here somewhere. Where are they? Oh, they're up there. Like this is what I'm doing now. You know, this is what I'm doing now. You know, I'm going out with hopefully a growing group of people, and I'm spending time in nature. I'm having conversations about what I'm talking about here with someone who's very much in my ballpark with this whole thing, and I'm spending time with animals, and I've got the time. Like, I never feel rushed. I have the time to just relax, take pictures, wait for the right shot, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'll tell you what got me to start doing this again. AI. I had arguments online with people over AI because people kept comparing it to photography. You know, you just put the correct settings in, press the button, and you got it right. Sure, because AI requires you to understand lighting. AI requires you to understand composition. AI requires you to have an eye for an image. Yeah, totally. No, AI can allow you to have copies, amalgamations of other people's work, but AI will never teach you how to do photography. Photography takes practice. You have to learn how a light will affect an image. And a lot of people have more of an understanding of that these days because of mobile phones. We have cameras with us all the time now. And because of that, a lot more people these days are pretty good at taking pictures. Because selfies have become part of our lives. Selfies are part of our lives now. You know, and it's fun having a camera with us at all times. A lot of people have more of an understanding of light than they used to. I started doing photography in the fucking first place because I was the only one in my family that could take a fucking picture without cutting people's heads off. Like, I was the only one in my family that could take a picture without bleaching the image full of light because they didn't know, like, they didn't have any understanding whatsoever of how light would affect an image. I did. I was self-taught for years until my school helped me get into a bit of a course near the end of my school year. And then through that, I went to college to study it. I have a degree in it now. You know, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to photography. There are very few things I'm as confident with when it comes to this. To the point where I could probably teach a few people. You know, I have taught someone, actually. You know, I've given them a basic understanding. And the thing with photography is, you learn the basics, and then you go out and you practice it. And as you practice it, you really get to understand what light does, what the settings do, what kind of image you'll get with various things. And there are certain books out there, like I've got one or two down there, that'll do a really fucking good job at like giving you an example of settings and how to get this image. I don't quite remember where it is, but I do have one or two down here that really do that very, very well. No, that's the Satanic Bible. That's not the fucking book I'm talking about. But I do have one or two books down there. Is that one? Ah, yeah. Here's a decent idea, a decent one. There's a few in this series by Henry Carroll. You can barely see it down there. It's like it's engraved. There we go. But just search this. This book is really fucking good at giving you they'll give you ideas of settings, and they'll give you ideas of composition and of different lighting and all this kind of thing. There's plenty of guides out there. YouTube was full of guides. It's really easy to get into, and quite frankly, if you're curious about this kind of thing, just go out with your phone. And if you get the itch for it, if it really scratches that itch, you get the taste for it, then invest in an SLR camera and do it properly. You know, because you'll figure out what you want. For me, wildlife. So for me, a telephoto or a decent macro lens is a requirement for what I want to do. But if you just want to get a taste for it, watch a few videos on YouTube to give you an idea of what to do. Go out with your phone, take a few pictures, read something like this to give you a decent idea of the kind of shots that you want to take. There's so many ways to get into this these days, and it's easier than ever before. You know, but yeah, I'm really getting a lot out of real life at the moment. You know, like it still has its own issues. I'm still crashing every now and again because I'm overdoing myself at sometimes, but I'm trying to balance it the best I can. But it's just chaos all the time, and I'm not enjoying it as much as I used to. I'm not enjoying the chaos. I'm not really enjoying being a troll anymore. Like I'm done with that. It's like as soon as I deleted my Twitter account, I didn't miss it. I've not missed going through Twitter talking shit to people, and I've also been doing it less over Facebook. Quite a few times I've seen something and I'm gonna respond and then going, ah, fuck it. What's the point? I would rather advocate in real life where it means something, because I know somebody's listening to me then. Not so much online. You're just a voice in the void, you know. But moving on from that, I don't really speak as fully, openly, and honestly on YouTube anymore because I know I have family that watches it, and some of these family members are warriors. Like they worry, not warriors. Although some of them are, but they worry like crazy. And if I showed anything that was suggested I was not doing very well at the time, instead of leaving me alone and letting me get through it, they'd hound me. They'd panic. They'd try to get in contact with me as soon as possible. And it's just like, that's not what I need. I need to be left the fuck alone. Let me get through it. But beyond just that, I'm more aware of my artistic cringe these days. And as such, part of this is to do with the online autistic community. A lot of autistic people online, especially influencers, really push non-masking to a stupid degree. Look, this world is not meant for us. It's not. And for all the awareness that people spread, people are far more aware of autism these days. I'm perfectly comfortable sharing with people that I'm autistic, right? If they start talking to me like I'm a kid, or they talk to me like I'm stupid, which does happen, that's on them, that's not on me. If they continue to have conversations with me and they still think I'm fucking stupid, they still think I've got the cognition of a little kid, then fuck them. They're not worth my time. But a lot of people are like, okay, sure. A lot of people don't give a fuck. Cool. That's the exact response I want. I want people not giving a fuck. But if it comes up in conversation, if the topic comes up or something like that, I don't care. I'll tell people quite honestly, yeah, I'm autistic. I don't care. Why should I hide that? Because if people know the signs, they can see it very clearly. Why hide that, right? But I also mask like a motherfucker. I mask like crazy. I mask so much that I'm not actually aware of how much I do it. One way I mask is how exaggerated my facial expressions are and my voice. You'll notice that if I'm in a very comfortable setting or I'm focused on something else, my face will drop and my voice will become more monotone. And I can actually have quite the deadpan sense of humor. And as I'm talking with family and so on and so forth, I will say something incredibly deadpan, and because my family know me, they know I'm taking the piss. They know I'm not being serious, and that's good. You know, but a lot of people who don't know me will probably think I'm being very, very serious. I'm being very cynical. I'm being quite a shitty person if they don't understand that. So a lot of my voice has to have a higher pitch. I have to have more energy than myself. So as I'm talking about this, some of it is passion. Some of this is passion because I'm passionate about what I'm talking about and I'm adding more, you know, all this to my voice. But some of it is just learned behavior. Because if I don't purposely make sure my expressions are wide and understandable and my voice has the inflections, I'm just going to be deadpan. I'm not going to move my eyes much. I'm going to be deadpan. I'm going to get it through me. And if we're having a normal base-ass conversation, this is what I'm going to sound like. This is what I'm going to sound like. Unless I get really passionate about something and we're just having a normal conversation and I'm perfectly happy. I'm perfectly happy. I'm having a good time. I'm really enjoying your company and we're having a really cool conversation I'm very much into. This is what I'm going to sound like. I'm going to sound very, very deadpan. I've still got a little bit of inclination in my voice, or like a little bit of inflection in my voice, but it's very difficult for me to fully turn off the masking. And I know I've got a friend who's not fully aware of how I operate, so he's seen my focus switch. And when my focus switches, my face drops. And he thinks something's wrong. It's happened twice recently. Once we were out for his birthday at a pub. I was hanging around, like we were having a conversation, and the people were talking amongst themselves. And at one point, my mind started to wander. I started to disassociate a little bit and go elsewhere. And when I did, I was less focused on my expressions, and my face dropped. And he thought there was something up. So being him and the supportive person he was like, "Hey Andrew, can you help me out with this a few minutes?" So we go over to the bar, and he was like, "You all right?" You know, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." I was fine. I was honestly fine. But he said it was okay. You know, if he appreciates me coming out and doing this because he understands social anxiety and so on and so forth. He's a really supportive friend. I love him. But I didn't really. I wasn't feeling bad or anything like that. I just had a moment in which my mask slipped. And he doesn't see that too often, so he was worried. And I used that as an opportunity to go home. Basically, I'm like, if that's the case, I think Yara will go. And I walked back, and as I walked back, I had this quick moment of anxiety. Really quick moment of anxiety. And as I started racing through the day and what people might think, and then I calmed down, I got back and relaxed. And then a few days ago, he was at mine. I was cooking, and he saw, as I started cooking, he saw my face drop again because I was focusing on something else. I wasn't focusing on the conversation. I was focusing at the task at hand. So my face dropped, and I looked like I was in a bit of a mood. Not only did my face drop, but my tone dropped as well. So it looked like I was in a little bit of a mood. So he thought something was up. He's like, "Are you alright?" I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. So I just explained to him, like, what I'm like. I think eventually, as he sees that happen more and more, he'll understand. But he's the kind of person that these people promote dropping your mask for. Because they're a supportive person. He's a supportive person that only wants the best, and you know, if he sees something like that, he's going to worry. But if I explain to him everything's okay, he'll be like, "Okay, sure, no problem." And I think the more he sees me do that, he'll recognize the patterns, and he'll recognize, "Oh, there's nothing wrong. This is just Andrew being Andrew." Like, that's it. But the mask is up all the time, even around people I'm comfortable with, because I'm so used to masking. It's difficult for me doing it. Even during this video in which I'm giving explanations about how I'm trying to turn it off, because I'm talking, it's instantly coming back on again. And this is partly why social interaction is so draining, because I'm consciously, constantly focused on essentially putting on a show so that my feelings are better, like, displayed to other people, because I am aware that a lot of people cannot understand me unless I give them the correct cues. So I have to alter my natural self in order to give them the correct cues, right? The world isn't made for us. And whilst accommodations should be expected to a certain degree, and understanding should be expected to a certain degree, you cannot expect the entire world to alter to suit autistics. You just can't. Because we're not the norm. Will never be the norm. And whilst awareness is a good thing, because then you get more people like that friend of mine who doesn't understand but is there with the best intentions and wants to kind of like get it and understand and be there for you. That's the best. That's the ideal. But a lot of people aren't going to understand, and misinterpretations are going to happen, misunderstandings are going to happen, and when they do, that is not entirely on them. We have to understand that we are not the norm, and the entire world doesn't have to learn how to translate us. We have to do the legwork, and that sucks. But when you're not the norm, you have to just accept that, right? And this goes into a punk mentality as well, right? Punk is a thing that I very much resonate with. But I think a lot of modern day punks do the classic punk thing of going out of their way to be different and then getting angry that the world doesn't like that they're different. No, in my opinion, the punk mentality is being different naturally and being confident in yourself regardless of what the world says, right? So like I've said, the ways in which I am a bit against the norm, right? Now, times are changing. This isn't as bad and as weird or as gay as it would have been at one point, right? It's fine. But times are changing. But it happens slowly, right? And there's still going to be a lot of people that will jump all over me for that, right? And the same thing for, I've not got them up here, but I have those arm length, like, striped arm warmers. They are actually meant for women, because they don't make them for men. The arm warmers that I have, I'm not wearing them right now, but I have been wearing them a lot lately. The arm warmers that I have are women's clothing. But I'm wearing them because I like them. And they're comfortable. And they're a little warm. You know, I've not suddenly become a woman or anything like that. I'm not gay. I'm not trans. I'm not non-binary. Nor am I a cross-dresser, really. I just like that. So I've worn it. Because I don't give a fuck. Right? But I understand that that's going to make me stand out. I've already had a few looks, and I've had schoolgirls notice me when I was wearing them when I was shopping. They turned around and looked and started talking to themselves and laughed. Because at their age, they're going to associate that with femboys. Because I know Zoomer shit, right? They're going to associate that with femboys. And of course they're going to laugh, because it's weird. It's different. It's unusual. It's a bit daft. It's a bit artistic. You have to have the confidence. If you're going to be different, you're going to have the confidence that goes with it. Right? You cannot be different and go against social norms and then be angry when you're mocked for it. You're going against social norms. You're going to be mocked for it. The punk attitude is not giving a fuck. It's staying true to yourself regardless of what the world says. Stop crying and expecting the world to bend over backwards for you and constantly affirm you at every given step. It's not going to do that. If you're different, you are going to be mocked. Now, this is not an excuse for people treating others like shit. Alright? It's not. But there's a difference between wanting the world to be better and expecting the world to be perfect. And then getting angry when it's not. Right? If you are different, and I'm not just talking about skin color or sexuality or anything like that. I mean, beyond that. If you are different, you are going to face opposition. If you go against societal norms, you are going to face opposition. And as someone that has been doing that all my fucking life, you need to develop a thick fucking skin. You need to develop a sense of self and a self of confidence in who that self is. Which I have. And it's very nice. It is very nice. But I understand that a lot of people don't have that. And the best advice I can give for people like that is just do it. Don't let your dreams be memes. Horrible advice, I know. But seriously, just go out. I've been going out wearing these arm warmers. I've been going out wearing this scrunchie. I do get looks. It happens. But it happened when I was wearing my leather trench coat. It happened with other clothing that I've worn over the years. It happens when I whistle in public. It happens. When you stand out in any way, you're going to get looks. Sometimes those looks are positive. Sometimes they're negative. Doesn't fucking matter. You're going to get looks. And you're going to have to be comfortable with that. If you're not, blend in. It's that simple. Right? But with autistic people and anyone that's a little bit different, awareness is a good thing. Awareness is a good thing. And the world is much better for, like, autistic people than it was when I was younger. There's way more awareness. There's way more awareness. And it's really nice to see. There's still a lot of misconceptions, like the whole idea that autistic people are not empathetic and shit like that. There's still a lot of misconceptions. But the best thing you can do is be the change to their misconceptions. Just go along with life. Be honest about being artistic. Don't hide it. Be honest about being artistic. And be the example that people remember. It's like, oh, okay, well, this person's not like that. And the more autistic adults people meet who are just fine and normal, really, or they're a bit quirky in some ways, but they're perfectly okay to talk to, the more people like that people meet, the better, the more of an understanding the average person will have. But the more you go around and you're purposely being weird, it's like you're purposely stimming in really weird ways. Like, I'll give you one of mine, right? I don't advertise this too often, but one of mine is twirling. I will spin around in circles when I have a burst of energy. I do it on my own with no one around, with the curtains drawn so no one can see, because it looks fucking stupid. And I'm self-aware enough to know that it looks fucking stupid. I'm not going to do this in public. I'm not going to record it and upload it to the internet. I'm not going to make a fucking show of myself. The whistling is a stim. But the great thing about that is people whistling in public, it's not normal, but it does happen. And you're going to get looks for it, but it's fine. As long as you're not overly obnoxious with it, and you're not screaming, essentially. You're just doing a little bit of a whistle as you're doing things, right? You're going to get looks, because it stands out. But it's not something that makes a fucking show of yourself. But making weird noises, doing like certain repetitive acts all the time, doing weird movements, you're gonna be looked at like a freak because you stand out a bit too much. Now, if that's how you stim, fine, but it might be advantageous to find a way of doing it that doesn't stick out so much. Like one of the ways I do, I tap the side of my leg. And sometimes I'll do it while listening to music so it doesn't stand out as much. Sometimes I'll do it while I'm thinking, so it looks like a kind of like a thinking action. Like that, right? Little things like that. And the more you know me and you know how autistics work, the more you'll start to see it in my actions. Like certain repetitive actions I do quite a bit. But they're still masked. They're done in a way where it doesn't stick out too much. So you can get that energy release. You can get that little tick done without making a fucking show of yourself, which if you have social anxiety is going to make it worse. And the more you expect the world to just accept you being weird, the more you're going to make that anxiety worse, because the more you're going to get reminders that society doesn't accept that, and it never will, and it doesn't have to. So one issue I have with a lot of the artistic community is, quite frankly, they promote things that makes things worse for autistic people. I would rather be realistic. In that the world is kind of shit at times. Awareness is a lot better than it used to be, but they're not going to accept you twirling around in public and making weird noises all the time. They're not going to accept that, and they shouldn't, because quite frankly, it looks weird. And the human brain is going to see that, and they're going to perceive someone that is unstable, maybe crazy, thus dangerous. And they're going to instinctively want to avoid that and want nothing to do with that. That is the normal reaction to something like that. And they're perfectly justified in feeling that way. This is the problem. Yeah, you're different. You either accept that or you don't. The best way is to find a way to be yourself and not give a fuck, whilst also understanding what the world is and making life easier on yourself. You can be punk while fitting in, and you can be very not punk while going out of your way to be different. It's really weird what I'm saying, I know. But essentially what I'm saying is, you can be yourself without being entirely your unfiltered self all the time. Because here's the kicker. No one is entirely their unfiltered self all the time, because everyone's unfiltered self is not appropriate for certain environments. People are a little different depending on the environment, regardless of who they are. Autistic people don't like hearing this because it really isn't the same, but everyone does mask to a certain degree. Autistic people just do it for more things. Way more things. But people do change who they are a little bit depending on the environment, because who they are is not appropriate for all environments. You can be yourself while still being filtered. You can be an independent person, an independent thinker, someone who goes their own way, while still not constantly pushing against society. That's what I like to believe I am. Someone that can fit in, but is not afraid to stand out. You know, because again, there's a difference between standing out because I'm a man wearing women's clothing to a certain degree, or women's accessories, really. I don't wear women's clothing. On occasion, I wear women's accessories. There's standing out in a way like that, and they're standing out by twirling around and going in public. Sorry for that. That was gross. There's a way of doing it, right? There's a way of being yourself without being a nuisance, right? And I do think a lot of artistic people need to realize that, because I do think quite a few of these online influencers, whilst the intentions are good, it's not realistic. And if a lot of artistic people follow their advice, they're going to end up unhappy, because they're going to be their unfiltered self all the time, and they're going to find it much harder to make friends, they're going to find it much harder to connect people, and they're going to find it much harder to be liked. Does that suck? Yeah. But I don't care who you are, whether you're autistic or not. If you're entirely your unfiltered self all the time, that's going to be the same for anyone. Because people can be a bit much. It doesn't matter who they are. They can be a bit much. It's this whole funny thing about normalcy. Normalcy is kind of an unwritten contract. We all kind of understand it, and we all follow it mostly. You know, some more than others, some less than others. But normalcy is an unwritten contract that we all kind of follow. But none of us, autistic or not, entirely really fall in line with it. We all hide parts of ourselves. We all hold back parts of ourselves in order to fit in with this level of normalcy. So the problem with being your unfiltered self all the time, regardless of whether you're autistic or not, is you're just going to make your life harder. That's all you're going to do. You know, you gotta find a way of being yourself without being your unfiltered self, which is possible. Because, again, your unfiltered self is not appropriate in all situations. It just isn't. Doesn't matter whether you're autistic or not. It just isn't. Some people just have to learn. But yeah, this has been a massive tangent of a video. I'm gonna upload the whole thing just unedited, but I feel like I needed this. But yeah, I don't really upload a lot as much like this anymore, because I don't really want my truly artistic side to be, I don't want my artistic cringe to be uploaded. I don't want to worry my family about certain things. I also don't want to really make a show of mental health. It's like, if I deal with shit, I'm going to be honest about it, but at the same time, I'm not going to do a song and dance about it and publish it and get everyone to look at me, right? I find it harder to do that these days. I used to be a lot more open about that kind of stuff. Again, if I'm streaming and people ask me about it, I'm going to be honest about them, with them. Like, if I'm not feeling great, or if shit's been going down, I'm going to say, but I'm not going to make a big song and dance about it, because one of the things I've kind of come to the conclusion with is uploading a video when you're emotional, regardless of what the emotion is going to make you look worse. And it's weird. Like, at one point I didn't give a fuck. I basically hated myself. I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I feel. And I was just waiting for the day I die. I was eating myself to death. These days, I have a bit of pride in how I look. In fact, I've recently hung a picture of myself downstairs in which I think I look pretty damn good. I have more pride in how I look. I have more confidence in who I am as a person. I like quite a few aspects of who I am as a person. And because I have more pride and confidence in who I am as a person, I'm also more sensitive as to what I show people. I care more about making a better impression now that I have a stronger care of myself than I used to. I used to not give a fuck about what people thought, and like, just like, whatever. If people want to hate me, they can hate me. But these days, I do care about making a better impression, and I care about the image I give across. And partly that's because I want my sense of self to be reflected naturally without demanding it. But also because some of the political things I talk about and the advocacy I go on about, I want to be reflected better. And it's not going to be reflected well if all I'm doing is being an angry little puppy and screaming and shouting and like being ranty and angry all the fucking time. And yeah, I've done it a little bit in this video, but to me, that is more passion about what I'm talking about. Trust me, you can tell if I'm angry. You can tell if I'm angry. Most of this is just... Actually, I think most of this seems pretty happy and well thought out and good feeling, because that's the way I am right now. Good feeling, good vibes, all that kind of shit, right? Live, laugh, love. All that cringe bullshit. But... yeah, I want the better me to show. I want the better me to show. I want the me that my self-perception to show. And yeah, so I don't really want to upload videos of me being angry and ranty anymore. Sometimes I record those just to get them out my system and I don't upload them. I do that quite a bit, actually. Same with if I'm feeling down, although that not as much. But I feel like if I use less social media and I pay attention to the news less, I'm gonna be happier, because a lot of this is purposely designed to grab your attention and hold on to it and piss you off and make you engage and so on and so forth. And I've been manipulated by that in the past, and I'm done. I'm done. So I just want to do what I'm enjoying. I want to play my video games. I want to talk about video games with friends. I want to play my tabletop in my real life and Roll20 groups. I want to fucking go on photography trips. I want to hang out with certain people. I want to have the kind of conversations I used to have online with people in real life in a much more fulfilling way. You know, that's what I want. And I'm having these conversations with friends. I'm having these conversations with acquaintances. We're getting them out of our system. I have a support group of friends, and I know I can rely on my family if anything ever goes down. I'm so lucky in that. I've spoken to so many people over the years that have a fucking terrible relationship with their family. You know, like, to the point where I've criticized myself in the way I've been when I was younger, and they've been convinced that my mother has convinced me that I was a shitty person as a kid. Like, no. I self-reflected. I know what I was like as a kid. I was a shithead. And I'm pretty sure that if my family was here, they'd be like, oh yeah, he was a little shit. You know, but they would never outwardly say that to me directly. They just confirm it. Some of them would go, oh, you weren't, you were just a kid. Or they'd excuse it because I was artistic. It's like, no, at a certain point, it's my own fault. I was a shithead. I made my mother's life harder. I really did. Beyond just being a kid. I was a cunt at times. I really was. And in my teens, I was an arrogant fuck. And if you've been watching my YouTube for a while, you've seen some of this. You know? And this isn't me hating on myself. This is all past tense. I don't think I'm that anymore. I've just recognized that in the past. That doesn't mean that was instilled on me from my family, like, gave me that impression of myself. No, I gave myself that impression from looking back and analyzing. That's exactly the kind of self-reflection. Just because I have a negative view of who I used to be in some ways doesn't mean I have a shitty relationship with my family or other people have taught me to hate myself. But some people have, like, really bad family relationships that's the way they think, because that's the kind of relationship they've had. So they're hypersensitive to that kind of thing in other people. You know, it's weird, man. But I'm really lucky to have the family I've had. It ain't Hallmark. It's got its fucking problems. But I'm a hell of a lot luckier than a lot of other people. Like, I've got a good support network, man. I'm pretty fucking lucky. You know, without that, I could have ended up being like Chris fucking Chan. Oof. You know, and again, I'm self-aware enough to know that, shit, I could have gone down that path. If I wasn't given the free reign to think for myself and, like, have family that obviously love me and friends that obviously love me and support and, like, understanding and all this kind of thing, if this element of myself wasn't, like, acknowledged and, like Chris Chan, was ignored and pushed to the side, I could have possibly ended up like that motherfucker. Oof. Hopefully not to that degree. If you know, you know. Oh, fuck. No. If you know, you know. I've just made myself really upset with that. Yeah, I've just knocked something over. That wasn't intentional. But anyway. But all this to say is just like, yeah. I'm just not getting as much of the internet as I used to do. I'm enjoying my streams. I'm enjoying my streams. I'm just, I've got a decent rotation in life at the moment. So, am I a perfect member of society that is given back to the society? No, I'm not. But I don't know. I'm more comfortable in myself than I used to be. And yeah, it's like I still have passions, I still have frustrations about like the world and so on and so forth, and I'll happily talk about them with any motherfucker should they be interested. But again, it's just like the internet is just insane. It's just insane. The inmates are running the asylum, and it's being reported on by the news as if it's normal. You know, this isn't right. Like, the world has gone fucking mad. The world's gone mad today. Your black's white today. And anyway, ginger is black today. That's how it works. A man's woman today. A woman's non-binary today. But yeah, I'm starting to lose my mind. Anyway, this is typical. I've told myself that I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna play fucking fuck, what the fuck is this game called? Metaphor ReFantasio. It's a new Persona style game. It's really fucking good, but it requires me to sit back and like spend a lot of hours in it and really get involved in it. And instead of ranted to a camera for the past hour or so, or however the fuck, I think it's probably like 2 hours, knowing me. Whatever. If you watch this whole thing, fuck yeah. But I appreciate you. Seriously, I appreciate you. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting rid of Facebook, and I'm looking forward to dive into my photography. As I said, I've printed out calendars. I've got some to give to family members. I've given one to the guy that I go shooting with as a thank you. Because yeah, essentially I had arguments with people with AI, and it kind of reignited my passion for photography, because I kind of lost it. And I lost it because I cared more about the end result rather than the process. But I'm enjoying the process again now, and as a result, I'm getting better pictures. Because I'm enjoying the process. I'm not just taking it to get a good picture. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And it's showing. So, yeah. And it's cool. You can see like a real progress as the images go on. Like some of the early ones I take compared to what I'm taking now, it's like, yeah. it's really nice to think. It's really nice to see. I'm hoping to get... I kind of want to get some of them printed out and put around the house. Like replace some of my old ones and so on and so forth. It'll be nice. It'll be nice. But, it's nice. But essentially he told me that he goes out with some guys like every now and again, or like once a week or something like that, and he does it as a hobby. If none of the guys want to come with him, he'll go on his own. And at one point I just asked him, hey, when you go, could I come along with you? And it became more of a routine thing. I have been out, let's see, I've got an album full of this stuff now. Let me tell you how many times I've done this year. Pictures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 different shoots we've been on this year. From right at the end of January straight through to October now. There's been, yeah, 1, 2, we didn't do any the 3rd month or the 5th month. But yeah, it's like it's happening. It's happened, you know, and it's been really nice getting back into it again. I've actually got on more shoots this year than I did for a few years. It's been nice. I've really enjoyed it, and it's done a lot for me. You know, it's mixing things I love. It's artistic expression. It's spending time in nature. It's meditative because I'm constantly looking around, looking for things to shoot, and having patience around animals and trying to wait for the right shot. It's meditative because I'm essentially practicing mindfulness at the time, because I'm at that point, I'm not in my head. I'm just aware of what's around me in that current environment, which is really hard for me to do. Mindfulness runs completely counter to how my brain works naturally. On top of that, the entire time we're doing it, in between shooting, I'm also having a conversation with people who work on my kind of think a lot like me, and I'm like, we're on the same page with a lot of stuff. And having those kind of conversations naturally without me holding back in certain ways is such a fucking gift. And it all mixes together to be like essentially a therapy session. It's like meditative. I'm expressing myself artistically. I'm getting something out of it in terms like long lasting with the pictures, and I'm getting a chance to speak and talk about things. And this guy is more ranty than I am at times. It's great. This motherfucker can just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. He's great. And again, like, hopefully we can get more people joining on in. That's the goal. And have a little photography group going on. It'll be nice, especially if we're taking the same kind of things, you know? But yeah, it's done a lot of good for me. And he'll never see this video, but I couldn't thank him enough for this. Like, he's done a lot. And it just started from having an argument with fucking AI people, you know, and that helped me reignite my passion. And then I just started talking to people during this community walk. Basically going, you know what? I really should take this up again. Like, walking around here, I should just bring my camera with me one day and start taking pictures during the walk. And then I was told that this guy does it. Like, he does it. So I'm like, hey, can I join you one week? It's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And now it's a somewhat regular thing. It's great. I've got another one planned for next month. Different subject matter this time around. It's going to be interesting. But, yeah, it's done a lot of good for me. Both speaking with him and doing the photography, it's done a lot of good. Done a lot of good. The community walk that I go on each week has done a lot of good as well. Spending time with friends once a week, like, specifically. Sometimes we'll meet up beyond that, but it's specifically once a week we'll meet up and we'll play tabletop games. We'll talk about our week. We'll share any kind of problems we're having because all of us are willing to listen. And some weeks everyone is like, yeah, it's not been great. You know, and we'll watch movies together or TV shows. Like, I showed some of these guys Always Sunny, and that's fucking great. You know, they showed me the IT Crowd, which I've seen clips of but never watched properly, and it was really good. You know, things like that, and little things that is just making my real life just worth it so much that the internet is just a crazy distraction that is just like, you know, which is good. I am firmly touching a lot of grass now, to the point where I have grass growing out of my fingers. I am touching all the grass. I am molesting that grass. That grass can't stop me from touching it at this point. But no, it's good. It's good. And as a result, I've just moved away from a lot of this stuff, you know, naturally. I'm still using it, but again, once I remove this scrolling away, I know it's going to be better for me, and hopefully it'll have a knock-on effect for everything else. For example, if I don't have social media to scroll through in the morning, I'll get up in the morning easier, thus maybe be more active, maybe choose better things to do, you know, maybe get through video games more, so I'm fucking not scrolling, I'm actually playing the video games I want to play instead of recording videos as well. Yeah, I'm wasting my time tonight, but I always seem to do this. Whenever I have time to do something, I seem to kind of meander around with something else. I'm stupid. But, nah, it's all going well. I really want to read through this again, actually. I think there are 3 of them, or I own 3 of them. I've got another one down there. What's the other one I've got? The other one is called Read This if you want to take great photographs of places. Yeah, places and people. These are both really good books. I could not recommend these enough. They give you examples, and they give you not only examples of, like, the actual pictures, but the settings that were used to take those pictures, as well as explaining the general science and behind it. And it's a really good... Honestly, I've not read any book on photography that does it better than this. And I've read a few of them. These teach really well because it's practical. You're not reading a novel here. You're essentially being taught the basics on how everything works, and then they're giving you examples of how lighting affects and how settings affect and how the combination of these things can give you completely different feels from the image. It's really freaking good. Could not recommend these books enough. And I believe they're reasonably cheap. $12.99. Yeah, $12.99, and they're pretty old at this point, so you can probably get them for cheaper. I don't know. But there's a bunch of these. There's a bunch of these, like, read this if you want to books. I think there's about 5 or 6 different ones, but these are the ones that I've got. But really, really good books. So if you want to get into photography, that's a good place to start. YouTube has a lot of good guides on as well. But the problem with influencer guides is a lot of the time they're not actually giving you helpful advice. This applies to everything, by the way. Nutrition, fitness, the arts, everything. A lot of the times, influencers are not there to give you good advice. They're there to sell their life and make it look good. That's what they're there to do. So take some of these guides with a grain of salt. If they're not doing what this does and explaining how things work and giving you examples and really just getting to the nitty-gritty as a good introduction, and instead they're just making things needlessly complicated or trying to make their life seem really glamorous, yeah, just keep in mind with that whenever you're looking for guides and advice through influencers, because a lot of them are just selling themselves and selling a lifestyle and an image rather than any helpful advice. You know, the whole overnight oats thing with nutrition is massive for that. They really try to make themselves seem as glamorous as possible with the way they do their oats. But it's like the simplest thing in the world. You don't need to go the 9 mile with this thing. But so many people do. There's a lot like that. Fitness is one of those things as well where it's just like, it's not reasonable. You know, they'll tell you to cut out fruit entirely and live your life eating nothing but like liver and eggs. It's like, come on. Is that beneficial for some people? Oh yeah, totally. Does fruit contain sugar and it's generally a good idea to avoid if you want to lose weight? Yeah, totally. But if you've got a problem with sugar, fruit can be a lifesaver because it's much better to have an apple or two than it is to have a bar of chocolate. It's much better to have a banana or some grapes than it is to have a bunch of candy. You know, are you still having sugar in your system? Yeah, but considerably less than if you're eating sweets. You can, and you're also going to get more nutrition from this fruit beyond just sugar as well. So again, a lot of ridiculously over the top advice from some of these people. Even if what they're saying is true, it's not realistic or practical for a lot of people. Just like I said with the autism thing, you know, a lot of people are there to sell themselves rather than or sell you a program rather than any actual useful advice. But yeah, that's the internet. It's just one of many ways the internet is driving me nuts, and I'm finding life better like without the whole social media element thing. But there are a few, like Quora I'm still going to stay around on because I don't use it too much. And when I do use it, it's only positive stuff, you know, or fun discussions that I can really sink my teeth into without it being overly emotional. And Blue Sky I'm going to look into. If it is genuinely just artists and not politics, yeah, I'll join that because I like the arts. I love the arts, in fact. The arts are great. If you want to see me really passionate, listen to me talk about like some of the arts, like Vincent van Gogh or Bosch or shit like that. Like, I love a lot of this shit. So yeah. And of course photography, like Frans Lanting and a bunch of other photographers like that. Like, it's cool shit. Anyway, this is where I'm officially going to end the video. I'm going to grab myself a drink because I've been yap all the fucking time. I need a fucking drink. And I'm going to play some video games instead of like running my goddamn mouth while this uploads. But yeah, as I say, I don't do these videos too often anymore because I want to give people a good impression of myself rather than a heavily emotional impression of myself. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot of the time, which I have done in this video. And I just don't get as much out of the internet anymore than I used to do. So, yeah. Anyway, bye!